Uh, Hey, everyone. Andy Hall, Tobin Templeman, John Hudson. How are you guys doing this morning?
Hanging in there.
Hey, I like that. I like your attitude, Tobin. Resilient. It's resilient. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to go with that too. Hanging in there. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that sentiment. I like it. I like it a lot. How about you, John Hudson?
Uh, just a little weird. Tried to go get pastries this morning. They was closed because the icy roads, and then just watching everybody ice skate.
I thought Texas just shoot the ice. I thought that's what you guys do. You get your squirrel guns. You get your bird shot. I don't know. Is a squirrel shot? You just shoot the. No, that's not what happens.
No, no. I tell you what, these people do not know how to drive on it either.
No. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, if you're in an area that is icy, and if you have someone who's just learning how to drive or just started to drive, the best thing you can do is take them out to an abandoned or to an empty parking lot in the morning and just at least get them to feel what it's like to drive on ice, right? Um, just to get the physical feeling of it.
Well, they think they can drive at the same speeds that they normally drive at.
Newton's law, those laws of motion are real, yo.
And they really like to take chances too. Last year, whenever it froze really, really hard,
Yeah.
like Kendra's like in this group text talking to her coworkers and stuff, and some of them are like, "Oh yeah, I'm on my way to Walmart right now," and we're like, "Are you crazy?" Like,
Yeah.
and none of the, and then yeah, one of them ended up getting off in a ditch because she slid off the road. It's like you got no business getting out in it.
Yeah. If our species survives, and if things go the way they are in 200 years, people will look back on us and go, and they'll be asking each other, "You mean people used to drive themselves?" And they didn't make the speed limit like 30 miles per hour. They just didn't think human life was that important to make everything 30 miles per hour. They're going to think that we're crazy, and we are. We're crazy. We're a crazy species. What's up, Big Zeb?
What is up? I'm just testing my new headset for the first time. How do I
I like
sound?
it. You sound like
Sound
velvet. You sound like velvet. That's what you
thank
sound
you.
like.
Like a fine scotch. Have you ever had Lagavulin?
I don't know if I have or not. I typically black out when we get to the scotch,
Well, give it a try sometime. It's too expensive, but it is really wonderful stuff. It's like a different kind of scotch that you've never had.
It's a different
Before.
kind of scotch.
Hmm.
Hi, Jenna. How's my granddaughter?
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like I'm just going to yell at the camera a lot over the next couple of weeks about the Ukrainian thing and Putin stuff.
Oh, God.
Yeah, just not sure what to think anymore.
Yep.
Well, we were talking in the chat in the previous show. Who was it now? It was Wild Eden, who I think it was her uncle died at the hands of the Russians, and she managed to get out of Hungary, or her father got out of Hungary. I'm sorry, my memory fails me. And that was in 56, not in 58 as I thought. And Czechoslovakia was taken over in 68.
Yep.
And in both cases, I think they were just studying. They had their own independent communist party or socialist party that wanted to do things a little bit differently, and the Russians wouldn't tolerate that, so they moved in.
Yes, that is basically what happened in Ukraine in like 1918, 1919, is that the Ukrainians wanted to have literally a Soviet, which is just councils without communists. And the Reds are like, that's not how things work.
Yeah. Horrifying.
Yeah.
Also, Tobin, it looks like you have something that behind you that looks like an empty grandfather clock with a weird-ass doll at the very top. And
this
Yeah, what the hell is that?
Looks like a
Oh.
Snoopy.
I think it's a hippopotamus.
Wow.
What is
Oh, yeah, that is a hippopotamus. You can tell by the giant tusks and blood in its mouth and stuff like that.
Oh, it's got a heart. It's a
What-
hippo with a heart.
What does a zebra know about hippopotamuses?
It knows the
Well,
skin.
you know, same continent, and
It-
we are very careful not to drink near hippos. You can usually see them. It's the crocs that are really dangerous. to see.
it- the hippos can be pretty violent. And I know I've shared with you my hippo shit story. They are territorial too.
Mm.
I
There's
can't
something
remember.
else. What was it?
One of the atheist channels the other day was showing this guy a moose is in the background, and the moose did a false charge on him and
Whoa.
such. And dude's like, "Oh, see, God's protecting me," you know. And I've been chased by moose on 2 occasions.
Oh,
Now,
God.
I had kept my distance. Once I was on a dirt bike and was able to get away fairly quick. The other time I ran like hell. Lost my fishing pole, in fact, because
Where on earth were you that you encountered moose? That's pretty far north of where you are now.
in
Oh, it was
Utah.
on Breeze.
Did you say
Oh, never
Utah?
mind.
Yeah, I grew up in Utah.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know moose came that far south.
Oh yeah. In fact, they have some of the largest elk herds in the world there too.
Wow.
What were we gonna say, Tobin?
Yeah.
Oh, we saw that on Breeze channel on the Saturday morning.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I
dumbass.
saw that. Yeah, I know, for real, right?
She was with Calf. He is so lucky that he didn't get just trampled. They are vicious. They are vicious. I ran into bear, and didn't have a problem with them. Damn moose are scary as hell. They are scary.
Oh, and they weigh so much. And if one of them steps on you,
You're done.
yeah, it's pretty much over.
You know.
What is
I'm
it now?
happy to-
1,500 pounds they max out at? Maybe a little more.
You guys are just making a very good argument for me not to go into the woods. You know, that's
Yes.
what you are. And it isn't just the deer ticks. I have to tell you, I'm kind of terrified of the deer ticks and Lyme disease. But the whole bear conversation and the moose, yeah.
I've ran into bear a couple times, and I just backed up and got the hell out of there. You know, didn't go too fast.
No.
And just you got to be slow. If you move away fast, there's a chance they might charge you.
If it's a black bear or a common bear, as they're
Those
called,
black bear, yes.
you have to, if they fight, you have to fight back, even if you only have your bare hands. If you get attacked by a grizzly,
Play dead.
then you have to play dead. And if you get attacked by a polar bears are much more likely to look at a human being and think, I could eat.
Yeah.
That's how polar bears think. And there are places in Canada, of course, where you can they're in the same town sometimes, like Churchill, Manitoba. But these people do things like on the stairs to their homes, they put in wood with nails.
No.
So the polar bears can't step up and knock off the door. They could just,
Well, they find a lot of times the bear will bite people and find out how nasty human is and not going further, you know.
Jesse says a friend of mine was living in Alaska at one point, totally destroyed their vehicle hitting a moose. He said the moose looked mildly annoyed.
Fact.
Yeah.
Often if you're driving a regular car and you hit a moose, the legs sort of collapse and the body lands through your windshield and can kill you just because you hit it. You know.
Well, that's the danger. You're right.
Yeah.
Just go ahead.
Polar bears are killing machines once again. You know, another reason not to go outside.
Also, something that's weird is polar bears are starting to move south, and they sometimes breed with grizzly bears. And I don't know what the behavioral characteristics will be of a polar grizzly hybrid, but I know I wouldn't want to meet it. Just too terrifying.
I think the
Indeed.
stupidest internet video I've ever seen has to deal with a bear and a guy walking up behind the bear, and this is like it's not a cub, but it's not a full-size grown bear either, and he kicked it. He kicked it in the behind, and of course the bear attacks him. It's like, wow.
If I can recommend a video about bears, there's a wonderful guy who has a channel called Casual Geographic. And the first video I ever saw of his was called Moose Are a Threat to National Security. So I'll put it in chat. And the guy is really funny and a very, very fast talker.
I'm looking at his channel right now.
There it goes. Okay, I put the link in chat. And
He's
oh
very
my God.
popular. He's got close to 2 million subscribers, you know.
He's regularly fantastic and a good writer and good speaker. And the two combine with this sense of humor, and the jokes go flying past you, and you just find yourself enjoying him talking about these animals that are often dangerous or disgusting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I found myself enthralled on the internet watching things on the Younger Dryas period.
Say that again. What was that?
The Younger Dryas, 12,800 years ago, when the Earth's climate dramatically changed. And that glaciers melted and such. Canada was under a mile of ice. It's pretty wild, but just showing at the YD boundary how there's impact proxies and sphericals and platinum and things that come from space, and they're thinking that it was ended because of comet impact.
Right, I'm looking at it right now. I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia article about it right now.
I missed that, John Hudson. Can you recap for me where I can read about this?
Younger Dryas. Dryas is Dryas. It was a flower that there's the older Dryas and the younger Dryas, 12,800 years ago. And a lot of crazy floods that went on during that time. And I think that, history, the Noah flood, I think it happened to not the world, but in certain areas where it wiped out civilizations. And me and Tobin's talked about this before, but, if you lived along a place where that happened, your whole world had flooded.
Yes. There was also that amazing flood in the Black Sea. You know that link that's almost a land bridge? I think it's called the Bosphorus. It's almost a land bridge. Well, apparently it used to be a land bridge, and it finally broke. And the Black Sea went from being a lake to a sea.
Good job.
And a lot of people found themselves dealing with floods.
Well, so many of the different cultures speak of, great floods, know.
So younger Dryas, is that considered to be scholarly consensus kind of stuff, or is that still in the?
They were saying it's woo, but there's a lot of scientists that are coming on board on this now. Lots.
It's just good to point out where something is.
Everything starts out as theory. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And science. Things that we don't know. There's a theory. I mean, it's like the KT boundary.
When we talk about scientific theory, that's very different from just a regular theory, of course. So it's important.
Well, there's hypothesis. You have a hypothesis first.
Yes.
You make it a hypothesis.
But it's becoming peer reviewed, and a lot of the peers are coming on board.
Right. The only thing I'm saying is that this is my first pass at it, and after briefly skimming an article, I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm going to hold that into a pay and be agnostic about that for right now.
Well, if you look at maps of the United States, you can see where the Mississippi Valley, there was tremendous floods. The Channel Scablands in Washington, tremendous floods along Appalachia, you know. And then these potholes that are in the Carolinas and such, the shapes of them and such, they're saying it could be for meteors, you know. And then what really got it for me was the impact proxies that they're finding in the boundary, charred earth, with plutonium and such. I'm not plutonium, platinum.
Right.
I was shocked. A long time ago, I used to read a little bit about astronomy, and of course, there's so much you don't know when you just read popular science. And I learned that almost all gold that is in existence comes about by two neutron stars hitting each other.
Yes, sir.
And I always thought that new elements, aside from the ones that happen in the cores of stars, were the result. Sorry, go ahead.
No. This is what I thought too. Is that most of the heavy elements are created by supernovas, right?
Yeah, and it turns out it ain't true, and it was really quite a shock to me. They can actually do the calculations on what elements a supernova would produce.
Do you have a link for that, sir?
Pardon me?
Do you have a link for that?
Yeah. Probably not, but I'll try. Give me a minute.
You can always tell when I've got my skeptical look on because it's like, I don't know. Tell me more about that.
How about what elements are produced?
Because this is the problem, and I've seen this, and I'm sure that many of you have seen this in your personal lives, right? You're hanging out with a bunch of friends, and there's someone who knows about, who went to school like maybe 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and is talking about what was scholarly consensus 10 or 20 years ago, right? But they're not up to date. And then someone who is up to date goes, hey, you know, the research has progressed since that time. I saw something like that a couple of months ago about Jesus mythicism, right? Actually, with Aaron Adair, he's a local guy in the Boston area. He's been on this channel. Really talented guy, really smart guy, and he was talking to another atheist about Jesus mythicism and about how that field has developed over time. So, so I try to say, so when I have when I hear a new idea, it's like, well, I wonder if it's just because I'm not up to date on the subject.
Sinclair and Firestone have some really good papers on it, on the Younger Dryas.
I will take a look after doing all the other things in the world, which I'm doing.
I just found it interesting because all the megafauna went extinct at that time. And, you know, with the amount of people they figure were in the world at that time, you know, up 5 million, 10 million is a high estimate. And there's tens and 20s, 40 million of these megafauna that just all of a sudden went dead. And I was always brought up believing that the hunter-gatherers came across the Bering Straits, come down in between the Laurentide ice glacier, and they said there was a valley in between there, and they populated the United States, or not North America. And they're fine. And then also the Clovis, they showed the Clovis people were here by making their points. After that Younger Dryas boundary, we don't find no more Clovis. It's gone. They only find it below it. And so it's just interesting that, you know, catastrophes can happen. They're not always man-made.
Catastrophes, if given a long enough timeline, the improbable becomes probable. So you know, you have natural disasters that definitely. And thank you for putting that link in. I'm hitting it right now, and I'm saving it for after the show.
It's amazing. I didn't even know this existed. Some smart person, took a periodic table of the elements, and if you go to AU, which is about the middle of the, it's atomic number 79. AU is gold, and almost all of it is from merging neutron stars, but some of it looks like less than 10%, is from dying low mass stars. And I don't understand. Oh, well, that could be some type of supernova. I don't think of low mass stars producing supernovas, but maybe so. Anyway, I ramble on, but very fun stuff to look at.
Yeah.
Thank you for
That
prompting me.
kind of ties into what I'm saying. Shit from
Yeah.
space hits this Earth all the time.
And
You
by the
know?
way, I'm not responsible for these collisions. I know people
You're
like
not?
to blame me.
No,
but
I like to blame you. I like to blame you all the time for all kinds of things when you're not here, Big Zebra. You should have heard me when you weren't around.
Yeah,
last
I
time.
know. And Tobin, I blame him for biological problems like viruses, bacteria.
What are you blaming me for?
I haven't decided yet.
You're the catch-all.
Maybe bad
I'm a
ties.
catch-all.
I'll blame you for bad ties.
No.
But and Dr. Kennard is looking snazzy as always.
Why, thank you. I'm looking at simply every once in a while I do look at the chat. I wasn't able to do that a lot this morning on the first show because I had so much to talk about. Simply Secular says, my neighbor was telling me about how a doctor had proven that the vaccine was the infection.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, come on.
And that
You
doctor
red
lost
card
his
me on that. I
license.
don't care.
Yeah.
I'll say it again. Oh, fuck.
and his study didn't have an alternative. See, this is what happens when I'm focused. I can't really do two things at the same time. His study didn't have an ultimate treatment or control group. Yeah, there are just some things when you read papers. Not having a control group should be a
typical
red light.
Peer review is important.
Yeah, like at a real art. Yeah, as again, because you can publish a lot of crap on these online, magazines, periodicals that don't have any peer review, and you just got to give them some money. That's it.
Dr. Kennard, I occasionally get a bit of an echo from you. So just
that can't be
does
from
anyone
me.
else get it? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Because I hear it too.
I don't hear it.
That must be John.
Well,
I think it might
it's
be
just intermittent.
Close out everything.
See, I'm going to speak again, but now it's gone. But yeah, there was an echo every once in a while.
What about when I talk?
It's
can
always
I
like
talk to Jesse
angels.
Bear for a moment?
It's like angels singing. That's what John thinks. That's what
Jesse Bear, there was a wonderful thing about the giant sloth that I want your son to know about. The National Center for Science Education had a Fossil Friday going for 2 years where people would guess what the fossil is. And so I happened to be there for the very first one, and I guessed that it was a giant sloth. But what they didn't realize is that I would guess every fossil to be that of a giant sloth, even if it was obviously not. And the one time it was a giant sloth, I wasn't there, and someone guessed it before me. So I thought you would like to know. And I would write these elaborate things about why the fossil that was obviously of a flower was a giant sloth. It was a lot of fun. And it wasn't like trolling. It was just having fun with whatever it was they were doing.
A doctor I worked for had a beaver skull that was bigger than a horse's head.
Holy
it was
crap.
Massive. It was pretty cool. And so, just can you imagine them animals roaming around today? That armadillo-looking creature that has the ball on its tail, the spiky ball.
Oh yeah.
How in the hell is a bunch of guys with spears gonna go take them out? You know what I mean? Because they hide up the same way as armadillo does, and if they're that size, their shell would be. I don't see guys with. I don't care how sharp their points are. I don't see them taking them out that way.
Amazing.
See, there's something called a sea sloth.
Yes.
I've never heard of a sea sloth before.
Well, it existed, and your second president,
Jefferson?
Thomas Jefferson, has a sloth named after him, and it's
really?
Megalonyx jeffersoni, which you should be proud that it's possible in America that anyone can become president, have a sloth named after them, and own slaves.
So,
and bang the slaves too, and produce offspring.
I'm going to talk about the sea sloth for a minute
Mm.
because it is an extinct genus of semi-aquatic ground sloths. The name of it is Thalassonchus. I guess I'm going to butcher that name. It's a semi-aquatic ground sloth of the Pacific South American coast. So there you go.
Well, there's sea otters.
Yeah, that's right.
So
you would think that the sea sloth would be a little bit more active, right? It would be less slothy.
Yes. Well, it's probably only the tree sloths that are like that. And
good point.
Good point. This giant sloths, by the way, I saw this incredible discovery that was made. Those enormous claws they had, they could use them to dig caves, and they would spend time in there, I assume, when it was raining or whatever.
Right. See, I learned all kinds of things on this show. Sea sloths. I'm amazed that there wasn't a science fiction channel monster movie about sea sloths, to tell you the truth.
I am sea sloth.
Oh, man. Yeah. What are you guys going to come on today? You got anything interesting?
I have something uninteresting to report.
Oh, please. Because I'm very interested in your uninteresting thing.
I made the mistake of taking out the garbage. That was on Monday. And when we have this long driveway, so I take the garbage to the edge of the driveway in my car.
Mm-hmm.
And I typically reward myself Monday morning by getting a cup of coffee at the local Tim Hortons.
Oh, yeah, Tim Hortons, sure.
My wallet was gone, and I searched all over for it. I knew it was in my pocket when I started the process. Anyway,
was it a sea sloth? What was a sea sloth?
I could have been a sea sloth because I live near Lake Ontario.
Oh, wow.
And no wallet, so I have to rebuild my ID and bank card and all that stuff. So wish me luck.
Well, that sucks, dude. Jesse Bear.
Damn.
I should say hello to Jesse Bear. What's
Hello,
up,
Jesse?
Hello. I just, with all the sloth talk and one of my kids being obsessed with sloths, I wanted to possibly explode your brain for a second, Andy. Did you know there are 2 species of sloth currently alive?
Yes.
They've done genetic testing. My child told me this because anything sloth science, this kid knows everything. They're actually more genetically different than different species of apes.
Really?
Well, they have different digits, right? There's the 3-toed sloth and maybe a 2-toed.
There's the 3-toed sloth, which is the one most people see. That's the big one that's kind of got like a sable-y color, and they get covered in the moss because they move so slow. And that's the one most people think of when they think of a sloth. And then there's the red 2-toed sloth, which is very, very tiny comparatively. And they are, I believe they said they might actually put them in a different, genus than the 3-toed sloth, because they are so vastly different, and they actually think they evolved separately.
Wow.
And they don't have a very common ancestor.
I did not know that.
Do they live in the same range? Do they share the same geographical area?
That I cannot pull out of my brain right this second, and I'm on my phone. Maybe Zebra could Google it real quick.
Some live in the same HOA. There's what was it now?
Really interesting there. Now we gotta check out on sloths.
Another crazy thing about sloths: if you take any mammal, whether it's a human or a zebra or a giraffe, they have the same number of specific neck bones, which is 7. It's a cervical vertebrae. I can't remember. So, but a sloth is the only mammal that has a different number of them, and even whales share the same number as humans. But sloths look so alien, move their heads differently. and it's in part because of the neck bones.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Love that.
There's a really good I believe it's SciShow has a video that my kid is I probably know that video by heart at this point, but it's about ancient sloths.
Huh.
And it talks about I believe it's mountain or cave sloths, the ones that would dig that you guys had mentioned before, the sea sloths, and they would actually use their claws to hold the bottom, like the sea bottom, to go and eat seaweed and other grasses.
Hmm.
And the giant sloths that would just knock down a tree to eat. And it's very interesting. It's weird how something as simple as like, oh, it's a sloth. It's like they literally named a quote unquote deadly sin after it, to be sloth, to not want to do things, to be lazy, to move slow. But in reality, they're incredibly interesting animals. And I get why my kid is so obsessed with them. And even, they only go to the bathroom like once a week, I believe.
Yeah, and
And,
they climb down that tree, walk away from the tree, and eliminate, and then go back up.
And that's the most dangerous time for them.
Yeah.
They're most
go out on a
vulnerable.
limb and poop there.
Yeah.
Well, evolution is just about good enough.
Good enough.
True.
Yep.
I like reading anything I can find on evolution. It intrigues me.
I got a story about sloths.
Oh, please do
I
tell.
want to hear it.
There was a morning kids show, and the main character is a sloth. I don't remember what the name of the TV show was, but at the end of this TV show, it would put its hand up to do a high five at the end of the TV show. And my kids really, they looked forward to that moment in time. Whenever it was the end of the show, they would go up and they would high five the TV. And we're off at this motel on a particular morning, and the sloth had came up to the TV to give the high five, and the TV was up on one of those stands where it's like up on the up on the wall, and my kids were crying. I was like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "I can't reach him." So I had to pick him up on my shoulders and let him touch it, and then
Right.
Hey, I'm gonna cut out. I'll talk to you later.
Good
Later.
talk. Good seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
day.
So
That is the most adorable thing ever to win.
once again, I don't do any ads, but this is the book that was pretty much influential. Quite, Jerry Coyne's book, Why Evolution is True. If you haven't read it, it's definitely worth your time. Yeah. It's a lot of nuggets in my brain about evolution I got from this book. So I think I'm going to start closing down the show, because I obviously have to read about a bunch of different topics, not sloths included, and I got to do some Only Sky work before going to work. So I'm going to say thanks everyone for showing up. We're doing this thing tomorrow, 9 a.m. and then the after show at 9:30.
I'd like to say something real quick before we go off. I just released a new song, and it's I come show me some love. Come listen to it. Come on.
Can you put a link in there for us, Tobin?
Yeah, throw a link in the
link in the chat right here. Come check me out. Come play with me.
I will check that out after the show too. So many things to do.
Yep.
So many things to do. And of course, there's an invasion going on. So, maybe I should pay attention to that. I don't know. All right. On that note, I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Shalom.
Shamala Hamala.
Hamala.
Now hitting the right